What's up, ladies and gentlemen, Neon Pow here, and today I am proud to announce, as you saw from the title, that we will be doing What If Naruto Was Raised by the Akatsuki Shippuden movie. Now guys, I know many of you have been waiting for this, and this is the compilation of all my previous parts, coming up to the end. I want you guys, as before, to try to hit 10,000 likes if you want to see this series continue. All up to you guys. Also, if you're new and this is the first time you're hearing my voice, please make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay up to date with all other types of crazy series like this on my channel. But guys, let's go ahead and just hop right into it. Beginning in the second half of our story, we now jump into a time skip of about a year and a few months. We start at the Akatsuki hideout. Obito is attempting to convince Nagato to put the final pieces of their plan into motion. They now have the manpower to capture the remaining bijou, which would push them closer to being able to start the war that would shift the entire world. For some reason though, Nagato was hesitant. It would seem that something else was weighing on his mind. Perhaps it was his thoughts of Naruto, seeing as he had practically raised the boy. Was he by chance concerned, seeing as Naruto would be the target to his plan? To ease Nagato's concern, Obito quickly reminded him that he had drained some of the Nine Tails chakra from Naruto with use of the Preta path in the boy's youth, so as to not have their loss of the boy be an hindrance in a situation similar to this one. Nagato impatiently said he knew, and calmed himself before continuing, saying he had other things on his mind, but thanked Obito for his concern anyways. Seeing Nagato in such an uneasy state was, to say the least, of his problems. Unfortunately for Obito, he didn't have an easy way to reacquire the Rinnegan should things go awry, as he had lost his Mangekyo at the hands of Itachi a few years back. He's been having to tread very lightly around the Akatsuki, especially Nagato, due to the fact that he can't afford to be as careless anymore. Fortunately, he has a reserve of several Sharingan left, but that will give him at most a single chance to escape the grasps of death using Izanagi if things come down to the worst. He hadn't realized until now how heavily he relied on Kamui, but these things were now his reality. Obito suggested that Nagato order several of the Akatsuki to capture the remaining tailed beast, and while hesitating to respond at first, Nagato eventually said he'd give the order, saying that the plan to make the world anew would be set into motion soon after. Obito's good mood quickly declines as Zetsu returned once again with no news about the whereabouts of Naruto, let alone the location of his eye. Furthermore, he could tell Zetsu showed less interest in his search, as he showed to be less and less cooperative with these searches, coming back sooner each time, his reports growing more and more brief. Obito would simply have to use the capture of the tailed beast as an opportunity to collect his eye as well. Later that day, the order was given out for each of the Akatsuki pairs to capture the jinchuriki assigned to them. Tobi and Zetsu were to take on the Three Tails, which had recently fallen under new ownership. Because of this transfer had occurred rather recently, it should be an easy task considering its jinchuriki wouldn't be able to utilize its powers anywhere near its full capacity. As the Akatsuki head out in search of their respective tailed beasts, our sights now shift to Konoha, specifically Danzo's lab. Danzo, as Hokage for the last 3 years, has been focusing on more important matters than keeping the village prosperous. He has put all his efforts into his secret project of keeping Kimimaro alive. By the time he realized what a daunting task this was, he'd already poured too much time and resources into him to simply stop. When normal healthcare and medical ninjutsu failed to heal him, Danzo decided to take more experimental measures. With the use of Hashirama's cells, they were able to stabilize Kimimaro's condition, but nothing much seemed to change. The illness wouldn't progress, but it was still present. Danzo decided to do some research on Kimimaro's familial history. Upon doing so, he found out that the subject's clan had a big conflict with a village hidden in the mist about a decade ago. So Danzo tried diplomacy, explaining the situation to the new Mizukage why he was in need of the files regarding the Kaguya clan. Upon being told no such thing existed, he of course resorted to more criminal means, employing a former spy of his, Kabuto. Strangely enough, he seemed to be accompanied by a peculiar girl, but that mattered not. Upon being told the situation, Kabuto named his price. It was paid for by the Leaf villagers' tax money, and the job was done. They returned complaining about the same ice user they encountered while sneaking into the place where the files were held. Knowing exactly what their complaints meant, Danzo silenced them with nearly double the cash originally agreed upon. A generous offer, but he was in a generous mood. Giving the files to his head scientist, he waited for results. In a few months' time, they were delivered. Sometime within the week, Kimimaro was supposedly going to awaken. What couldn't be predicted, however, was the problems awaiting once he did. Once Kimimaro awakened, he went on a rampage, causing 2 casualties and 6 wounded, 3 of which were hospitalized, and most of them were at least Jonin status. In response to this chaos, Danzo had to suppress the boy himself with his wood release. He then ordered everyone to rush out, and he began removing the wrappings from his face to reveal the eye of Shishui. Using Kotoa Mutsukami on Kimimaro, Danzo began grinning to himself as he released him from the wood that was binding him. Kimimaro looked around, confused, no longer knowing where he was. All he could remember was his name and a vague sense of who he was. He tried thinking of his past, anything about himself, but it was all a blank. He looked at Danzo, hoping he would have some answers. Danzo stood there, just smirking at Kimimaro. Instead of simply having Kimimaro as a loyal servant, unquestioning and reliable as any tool should be, with the use of Shishui's genjutsu, he decided he'd have a little fun with this after all his troubles. After humiliating his men like that, Danzo figured some form of punishment was in order. But what can you take from a man who has nothing? The Hokage deemed the answer to be his memory. He explained everything he'd just done to Kimimaro. The young man remained still as the light slowly drained from his eyes, listening to every word tightly. Danzo promised he'd return Kimimaro's memories if he followed his every command. However, if he refused, he'd simply wipe this conversation from his memory and leave him there alone. While he couldn't actually do this due to his visual prowess being under cooldown, that was unimportant due to Kimimaro not knowing this information. Kimimaro sat there in silence. He never wanted to feel as lost as he just was ever again. Being left alone in this unfamiliar place with not even his memories to accompany him felt like torture. But how much more pain would he have to go through to regain his past from this monster? He pondered this, breaking the deafening silence at last with a single utterance. Fine, I'll do it. Sometime later, in the village hidden in the mist, Haku was awaiting to be notified that the transfer ceremony was ready to begin. From today onward, he would be the jinchuriki of the Three Tails. This was to reward him for his contribution in the recent coup against the Mist's former leadership, as if that be considered a reward. The last jinchuriki was the 4th Mizukage, Yagura Karatachi. He was the reason why the village was known for the decades as the Bloody Mist. The reputation that would come with this was sure to be a poor one, to say the least. He didn't care though. He simply do what needed to be done to ensure that the Hidden Mist Village would one day lose its former reputation and become a place future generations wish to protect. It's what Zabuza would have wanted. After an excessive amount of time had passed, Haku decided to check on the progress of his preparations. As he neared the room, the sounds from it became increasingly more familiar to him. They were those of conflict, battle, war. His pace increased as he was now running towards the room, wondering what horrors would await him when he went inside. As he opened the door, he caught a glimpse of the men inside as they escaped, all the others now lying on the floor, injured in some way or another. He noticed black cloaks with red clouds, Obito and Zetsu, and with them was Yagura, the current jinchuriki. Haku attempted to stop them, but he lost sight of them both as they turned the corner. Fortunately, as a former tracker ninja, he had the experience to stop them. He was even able to catch a glimpse of them, so at the very least, he knew who to look for. The Three Tails was a massive asset for the Hidden Mist, one they couldn't afford to lose at such an unstable time. He went over to one of the few shinobi currently conscious, briefly explained the situation, then went out to search of Yagura, and as an extension, the men who took him. Obito, who was quite a ways away from the Akatsuki's hideout at this time, decided to instead make it a priority to acquire his own eye as opposed to returning immediately. He thought they had gotten far enough away from the Mist Village and could tell Zetsu to handle the rest, returning to the jinchuriki to the hideout, being foolishly unaware of the angry Haku rushing towards them. On another front, it has now been over a week since Kimimaru's memories were stolen. There's nothing here he feels any form of connection to. He wanders around doing the training Danzo requires of him, eating, sleeping, then doing it all again the next day. Everyone here seems to be stuck in that cycle, all living under the control of a demon who took his past. But they all seem more like puppets than people, long since broken by the cruel training they've been subjected to. Finally, some new news breaks his agony. Danzo told him he could now start repaying his debt. After having a seal placed under his tongue as an extra precaution, he called it, he was briefed on his mission, capturing a boy by the name of Naruto, last name supposedly unknown, and either killing or capturing the eyes of the two people he assumed were of the same clan, Sasuke and Itachi Uchiha. Once the mission was successfully completed, he could have his memories back. However, Kimimaro had a dreadful feeling about this mission. He felt that in his current state, he would not only be unable to capture the ninja, but that he wasn't supposed to hunt them down either. Danzo gave him a task he would surely be unable to complete in order to be able to use him more, while he held the hope he'd one day be able to regain his memories. He was disgusted that this plan was working. Even with that in mind, Kimimaro headed out to the area where the three were last seen, a small village at the edge of the land of water. On the shore, a great sea near the small village is where Naruto, Sasuke, and Itachi are currently staying. Naruto is woken up for breakfast by Itachi, which of course is fish again. That's all they've been able to eat as they've been on the run. Their wanted posters have apparently spread far past the borders of the land of fire, and are now even found around small fishing towns such as this one. Danzo's persistence knows no bounds. He must surely be the one behind this act. As Naruto complains about this predicament, all Itachi can do is apologize. On the other hand, Sasuke is sitting in a tree overlooking the bay and its surroundings. It's currently his turn to be on the lookout. Sasuke's perception has gotten so refined that from the scent of the air alone, he could tell that something bad was approaching them quickly. He called out to the other two to warn them, and in just a matter of moments, Obito made a surprise entrance in hopes of acquiring his Mangekyo. Naruto and Sasuke were ready to fight the tyrant, but despite being more than strong enough to handle the situation, Itachi, with a stern and serious voice, ordered them to escape instead. They weren't sure why, but they weren't going to fight him on this. In a nearby distance, Haku, who had already tracked down Zetsu and apprehended him on the water, was on the search for the masked man after dropping off the captured jinchuriki to his village. Aiding him in his search were several mist Anbu. The group searched the area for several minutes, and as Haku was about to reach the bay's shore, he heard the shouting of one of his men from within the forest. Turning that way instead, he and several others arrived on the scene to see a member of their own on the ground, though mostly uninjured. Ordering the squadron to spread out once more, Haku stayed behind to question what exactly had happened to the soldier. As the Anbu lifted himself off the ground, he simply told Haku that the silence attacked before he could see them, but he assumed there were two of them judging from the number of footsteps he heard while he was still on the ground. Haku told the soldier to regroup with the others, and that he would meet up with them shortly. Within the next few seconds, Naruto and Sasuke decided to attack Haku from both ends and used both of their signature attacks. Haku skillfully moving out of the way fast enough for the two to redirect their attacks away from each other. From their techniques and ability to conceal their presence to such a high degree, Haku knew this wouldn't be a simple fight. However, even with the rapid pace of the clashes, all three of them seemed to realize at the same time that this wasn't the first time they'd met. All three of them had changed physically, quite significantly over the years, but they couldn't help but feel a familiarity in each other's aura. Everyone was hesitant to make the first move, but Haku decided to be the first by removing his mask. Naruto and Sasuke were relieved to see it was their old friend and began lowering their battle stance to reintroduce themselves. Haku then began asking what they were doing there and why they attacked one of his men. They didn't have time to explain this to him in full, but Naruto quickly explains that due to the circumstances, it's safer to assume everyone is after them at the moment than not. Haku then decided to give the duo his side of the story and said he was actually chasing after someone else who had infiltrated the Mrs. Prison and escaped with a person very important to the village's plans. Sasuke cuts Naruto off as he was about to inquire more, asking if this man was wearing a mask revealing one eye. As Haku said yes, Sasuke redirected their attention toward the area he and Naruto had just come from. He then darted off into that direction. Naruto explained as they ran after him that the man that Haku was looking for was currently attacking Sasuke's brother, and that he could take his head when they killed him. As they arrived at the bay, they were greeted by the sight of a wooden dome being burned by black flames. Itachi was clutching his hand over his eye, blood running down it, but the flames still continued to burn. He's wasted much of his chakra reserves, too much it seemed. Based on the situation, it looked to be that Itachi pushed Obito into a corner, and that the menace used the dome as a last resort, the Amaterasu being Itachi's response. A massive downpour begins to form, and with thunder in the distance, Sasuke steps forward, telling Naruto to tend to Itachi while he takes care of this situation. Naruto does this, helping Itachi to his feet, demanding he stop the black blaze. Continuing it any longer could prove fatal. Itachi simply smirks at Naruto, telling him he knew his limits, and that he'd stop after Sasuke cracks through the wooden barrier. Sasuke raises his hand to manipulate the skies themselves with the use of Kirin, the massive lightning dragon being dropped into the dome in the blink of an eye. As Amaterasu spreads to what was inside of the now demolished dome, it's apparent very quickly that there was no one inside. Then, in a blink of an eye, several wooden spikes jut out of the ground, the majority of which impale Itachi, while several others shallowly pierce Naruto as well. A great ball of flame separates Sasuke and Haku from the two, and within another second, Itachi's gone. Zetsu, who Haku thought he eliminated, aided in Obito's swift escape with Itachi. Zetsu even got Obito out of the dome without Itachi noticing to be able to get the drop on him. Everyone who was standing on the sand has no idea what just happened other than the fact that Itachi was simply no longer there. Sasuke immediately collapses with grief. Naruto is immediately pounding the ground in front of him as tears fall freely before collapsing himself. His wounds were more severe than what one should think from simply looking at them. Though the wounds were shallow, there were many cuts that spread across a large area of his body. As Haku shot a flare into the air to alert the Anbu that the silence had gone away, Naruto had just enough time to note the irony of the Black Ops using such a non-discrete form of long-range communication before blacking out. In the last episode, we left our protagonists in dismay with their beloved mentor captured by the Akatsuki, with Obito leading the brunt of the chaos. On top of that, Naruto was left torn up as he did not realize the severity of his wounds. Fortunately for Naruto and Sasuke, they bumped into their old friend Haku during this time, and he has gained much of a name in his village over the years, with most of the entire shinobi world after their heads due to Danzo's slander. It was good to have a powerful ally they could rely on during this dark time. After the missed Anbu search party ended with no traces of Obito and Zetsu with Itachi, Haku insisted on bringing Sasuke and Naruto to his village, especially for Naruto's sake as he needed medical treatment direly. The two were a bit hesitant to go with Haku, not because they didn't trust him, but because they did not wish to bring any more trouble to him. However, with Kurama refusing to heal Naruto since Naruto refused to unleash his power when they were fighting Obito, they accepted the kind offer. Now that Naruto knew he would be in good hands, the adrenaline that had been keeping him conscious wears off and he blacks out. Several hours after the three left the scene, Kimimaro finally arrives at the desolated land where the massive battle occurred. He was greeted by the flames of the Black Inferno still ravaging on. It would seem that Itachi's Amaterasu had spread from the beach to the surrounding woods in the hours before Kimimaro had gone there. Kimimaro was frustrated that he wasn't fast enough, but if nothing else, this confirmed one thing: he was headed in the right direction. He must not be far behind Naruto and the Uchiha now. While still wary of the threat they must pose to him, he had no choice but to follow Danzo's will. As unfortunate as the situation was, Kimimaro knows that he needs his memories. He needs, above all else, to find out who he is again. Now we pan over to the hidden mist. Naruto wakes up bandaged in bed. It took him some effort to get up, but he eventually managed to do so and walked out of the unfamiliar room. Waiting for him outside was Sasuke, who told him he had passed out from his injuries. Naruto gives a nervous chuckle and then begins to ponder. After being on the run for so long, it felt nice to have somewhere that welcomed them. However, that feeling faded upon remembering what had happened. Itachi was gone. They sat in silence for a time before Naruto finally spoke, asking Sasuke what their next move should be. The silence prevailed until finally Sasuke admitted he didn't know. How could they hunt after Itachi when they didn't have the slightest clue where he was? How were they to stay here when he was out there somewhere possibly being tortured? He just didn't know. Naruto then raises his hands and slaps Sasuke on the shoulder, exclaiming that being pessimistic isn't going to solve anything. He goes on to remind Sasuke how powerful Itachi is, and that he wouldn't be vanquished that easily. On top of that, it's okay not to know or have a plan all the time. Naruto then says that even though they don't know what the next plan of action is, they can always train and hone on their skills for when the time does arrive to strike. Sasuke is flabbergasted to hear that Naruto was actually lecturing him for once. This brought Sasuke to the realization that the two of them truly have grown and matured, especially more so Naruto. Sasuke then gets up from his moping. He agrees that the two of them need to get stronger if they ever hope to survive the oncoming combatants coming after them. As Naruto and Sasuke are finishing up their conversation, they hear someone knock at the door. As the person opens the door, the two are pleasantly surprised to see that it's the leader of the Hidden Mist Village, Haku, coming in to check on them. He enters the room and is pleased to see Naruto is finally awake and looking better. He has come in to inform them that his search party still has not gotten any leads on where Itachi was captured. However, he tells the two that he will do everything in his power to help. He also tells his friends that they are more than welcome to stay and do what they need to do in his village in the meantime. Naruto and Sasuke are very appreciative of all his kindness and ask if there is anything they could do to repay the favors. With that, Haku does actually have a request from them, specifically Naruto. He explains to them that the transfer ritual of the Three Tails has been completed and he is now a jinchuriki. He asks Naruto, as Haku is aware he is much more experienced, if he could assist him in learning how to have the better control over the tailed beast. Naruto is surprised to hear that someone, and more importantly Haku, would want his guidance. Naruto is obviously thrilled by this gesture and agrees to help. While Naruto is still in the process of learning how to fully control his tailed beast, Kurama has been more cooperative in the past years, and on top of that, Naruto was able to benefit from Itachi's genius over their years of training to at least access and maintain the version 1 cloak. Naruto and Haku shake on it, and Haku leaves the two for the night. The night passes by an instant, and is now the next day. Naruto and Sasuke have a long day planned of training and enhancing their jutsus. However, before that, they must get some sustenance. Sasuke stays home to make his perfect sunny side up eggs, while Naruto, of course, goes out to find the nearest ramen shop to eat at. As he is strolling around the village, he gets an odd feeling that he is being watched by someone. Naruto, being careless as usual, just shrugs it off and sits down at the shop to eat his ramen. Mid-bite through his soupy goodness, a person covered in a hood sits next to him. While Naruto can't see the person's face, they feel very familiar to him for some reason. Naruto is about to say something, but the hooded man leaves without ordering anything. Naruto then notices the man had forgotten a scroll on the counter and immediately rushes out to give it to him. However, he is nowhere to be found. As Naruto looks down at the letter, with closer inspection, he sees it is addressed to him. He is a bit suspicious of this, but proceeds to open it anyways. All the scroll says is, "Meet me in the forest at 2 p.m. Naruto is still confused, but assumes maybe this is part of Haku's training for him. He's very excited to have some suspense roll up. When Naruto arrives at the training field, he is greeted with a person in a mist Anbu mask. Naruto asks what he wants from him and if he's here under Haku's orders. The man just stands there, ominously without a word. The masked man then just gets in a battle stance and begins charging at Naruto. Naruto expected this and the two clash. As the fight raves on, Naruto constantly feels at a state of familiarity, as if he knows this person beforehand. However, what throws him off is that the man's fighting style and even physical form are unrecognizable to Naruto. Each fighter is able to hold their own quite well without breaking a sweat. However, if either one wants to get an edge, someone will have to be the first to make the bigger blow. Since Naruto believes this fight is to test his Kyuubi abilities for Haku, he begins releasing some Nine Tails chakra. The large increase in power lets Naruto pull a solid kick on the masked man, slamming him in the dirt. However, almost as he was expecting the rise in power, the man gets up, dusts himself off, and cracks his neck and back. He then begins waving some hand signs, too fast for Naruto to see. Naruto expects something to happen, but nothing does. The man just charges back at Naruto, now with more force and speed. Naruto doesn't know how the guy got so much stronger so quickly. Was he holding back? Naruto is now quickly losing ground as the surprise of a random mist shinobi that wasn't Haku possessed so much power. Even though Naruto was getting pushed back a bit, he's enjoying the fight a lot, as it reminded him of the sparring he did in his youth with Kimimaro. Naruto just smiles and realizes that he will have to reveal his true power to this masked man, the power he has been saving for when he would train with Haku. Naruto begins infusing his chakra with the Nine Tails to form a bubbly orange cloak around himself. As Naruto transforms, he finally gets a solid reaction from his opponent. However, it wasn't of fear as Naruto was used to seeing when revealing his tailed beast power, but of excitement. Naruto is glad to see that Haku chose a worthy opponent for his test battle. Within seconds, Naruto moves so fast he vanishes and reappears next to the Anbu, smashing him through a boulder with his tailed beast cloak arms. Naruto realized that he definitely went overboard as he hadn't had a chance to really test out this power against a normal opponent. He quickly powers down and rushes over to see if the Anbu is okay. Once he gets close to him, he is relieved to see that the masked man is still in one piece. However, what Naruto did not expect to find was that he was covered in a bone barrier. With closer inspection, the man's mask was split in half, revealing half of his face. This sight made Naruto drop to the ground in tears. It was his long-lost friend, who he thought he had lost years ago, Kimimaro. Naruto attempted to get himself together as he needed to think clearly. He did not know how Kimimaro was still alive after all this time, and more importantly, why he was in the hidden mist village. He knew if anyone would know how to handle the situation, it would be Sasuke. While Kimimaro was still unconscious, he carried him back to where his Uchiha friend was. Sasuke had been wondering where Naruto had been all this time, but it was immediately answered once he saw who Naruto was carrying. Naruto, with a teary face, asks what Kimimaro's appearance could mean. Sasuke immediately begins inspecting Kimimaro to look for clues. Sasuke found a big red flag, Danzo's curse mark on his tongue. Within the 2 years spent with Itachi, he was able to gain the wisdom and vast intel Itachi incurred over his lifetime working as a double agent, including some of the dark secrets of Danzo. To confirm his suspicion, Sasuke opens Kimimaro's eyes and uses his Sharingan to look into his memories. Sasuke is appalled by what he sees. Naruto notices this reaction and looks at Sasuke, waiting for an answer. Sasuke just looks at Naruto and gulps before he says that he is indeed the same Kimimaro he knew physically, but mentally he has been completely wiped. Naruto just sits there, frozen. He has finally been reunited with his old comrade, but in reality, he has lost his best friend to the clutches of Danzo. In a faraway distance, we join in on a Akatsuki virtual meeting. Pain questions each pair on updates of the capture of their respective beasts. He is pleased with most of the news. The Akatsuki were able to capture all tailed beasts except for the 3, 8, and 9 tails. This unfortunately means that Gaara had succumbed to the Akatsuki since Naruto was unable to save him as in the original canon. Pain then looks to Tobi and Zetsu in disappointment in not capturing the 3 tails, a seemingly easy task with their powers. Obito, keeping his cover up, tells Pain that he captured a more useful card than one-tailed beast. He got Itachi. Pain, still frustrated with Obito's action, bites the bait laid down by the Uchiha. He first dismisses the rest of the Akatsuki so that he can hear out what Obito is getting at. Obito explains that he ran into some complications on his mission, but figured it would be the Akatsuki's best interest to use Itachi as bait to lure out the 9 tails brat. If possible, they could even get the 3 tails, as he noticed them working together. Obito sees he has Pain's full attention now. He then adds that they can kill 2 birds with 1 stone and lure Naruto to the Leaf Village to not only capture the tailed beast, but finish off Konoha once and for all. Pain senses that Obito must have an ulterior motive, but understands that his plan is excellent, especially since he knows Naruto well enough that he won't hesitate on saving Itachi and the innocent. However, this plan will take some time as they've used much of their resources in capturing the tailed beast. Pain sends out Hidan and Kakuzu to replenish their finances and tells Deidara and Sasori to locate the whereabouts of Naruto. As the Akatsuki are moving in high gear, we pan back to the hidden mist village. Sasuke and Naruto are still processing their next objective, as they can't let Danzo run rampant anymore. However, they are horribly unaware of the plans of both Danzo and Obito that will soon engulf them. While the 2 teenagers are powerful, they lack guidance and experience. Fortunately for them, a man with long white hair and his signature Geta sandals approaches the border of the Mist Village looking to aid them in their endeavors. We last left Naruto and Sasuke in the Mist Village under the protective watch of their friend Haku. To Naruto's surprise, he was ambushed by one of Danzo's Anbu. However, what he did not expect to find was that Anbu would be his old friend Kimimaro, who is currently under the brainwash of the tyrant Danzo. Sasuke and Naruto are both lost and confused, especially after the heartbreaking Uchiha napping of their mentor, Itachi. While they possess insane potential, they have no one to guide them towards it. They are sitting ducks waiting to be discovered by Obito or Danzo. Fortunately for them, a wise old acquaintance has finally arrived to their aid after many years of aimlessly searching. As Naruto and Sasuke are sitting in their room looking at their friend Kimimaro unconscious, they hear a knock at their door. Haku opens the door and tells them that they have a visitor. The two boys are confused on who would be visiting them, especially in the Mist Village. As the old man walks in, the long spiky white hair is unmistakable for Naruto. He gasps and exclaims, "It's the pervy sage!" and goes to greet him. He asks what brings him here. Jiraiya just laughs and takes a closer look at Naruto as he hasn't seen him in so long. Now seeing him older and looking with finer attention, Naruto's resemblance to Minato is uncanny. Jiraiya is just full of joy that even though he had made the mistake of missing his godchild the first time, he was able to still see him alive and well, and by the looks of it, much more powerful. Jiraiya couldn't help himself but embrace Naruto. Naruto and Sasuke are now even more confused. After this brief encounter, Jiraiya gets himself back together. He refrains from telling Naruto about his origins and his connection to him for now. He instead brings focus on a more urgent matter, such as what has been going on in the Leaf Village and around the shinobi world. Naruto and Sasuke were aware of certain things, but their sources became slim over the years. They couldn't believe Danzo had put down such a strong iron fist on the village. However, what made them more worried was that the Akatsuki now had a hold of all but 3 of the 9-tailed beasts. However, to put light onto all the bad news, Jiraiya proceeds to tell the boys that he will provide them with the guidance and training needed to handle the upcoming battles. This is exactly what Naruto and Sasuke have been looking for. Now that they have a mentor and a plan on what they can do to prepare, they have to think about what to do with Kimimaro. Could they possibly convince their old friend that didn't even remember them to join their side? They definitely couldn't keep him locked up forever, as Naruto couldn't bear doing that to his friend, and Sasuke thinking it would cause Danzo to raise some suspicion. They would just have to try to talk to him once he awakened. Once Kimimaro awakens, he is greeted with Naruto's face a few inches from his. This of course freaks him out, and he begins squirming to get out. Naruto tells him there isn't any use, and then follows up with a question asking if he remembers who he was to him. Kimimaro begins to ease down, takes a pause, and eventually answers that other than from his current mission, he has no clue about their relationship. Even though Naruto knew this would occur, it still bites him deep down. He then takes a breath and asks if Kimimaro is willing to work with them. Before Kimimaro is able to refuse, Naruto tells him that they already know about his current mission and what Danzo has done to him, including wiping his memories and wanting to regain them. Naruto further tells them that while he can't get his full memories back immediately, he can begin providing information about his past before eventually getting them back from Danzo. This offer does have Kimimaro very intrigued, as it's exactly what he wanted, to feel complete again. However, he doesn't know if he can trust the enemy. Who is Naruto in his eyes currently? Something inside him makes him terrified to disobey Danzo. Regardless, this offer seems like a gamble he should take, as it could benefit him personally and towards his mission by getting Naruto's guard down. Kimimaro, now looking directly at Naruto, agrees to work with them for now. Before Naruto can rejoice, Sasuke quickly comes in and grabs Kimimaro by the neck, whispering in his ear with a serious tone that, even if he thinks of double-crossing them, he won't hesitate to cut him in half. Naruto quickly grabs Sasuke off of his friend. By the look of Kimimaro's face, it was clear that Sasuke's message got through to him loud and clear. Kimimaro would have to tread very carefully, as the Uchiha could not be fooled as easily as the Jinchuriki. After all the unfavorable outcomes that have fallen onto our two protagonists, the universe finally looks to be shining a light towards their direction. Naruto, as promised, will need to train Haku on how to access and control his tailed beast's power. However, Jiraiya feels it would be more beneficial to take things in a different order since their time is slim. Since he's been around for a long time, he has learned some tricks and seals that should aid Haku in the initial connection with his tailed beast. While he would be doing that, he has other plans for Naruto. He wants Naruto to go to Mount Myoboku and learn Sage Mode. Jiraiya knows it could be risky as he hasn't confirmed it just yet, but he believes Naruto is truly the child of prophecy. Naruto isn't sure what the new ability entails, but he's super excited to get stronger and save Itachi, and to teach his old family, the Akatsuki, that he isn't a helpless child that they can run over. Jiraiya, for a moment, also thinks that Sasuke could benefit from the sage training, but recalls that Sasuke has been inflicted with Orochimaru's curse mark. He doesn't know the full extent of the mark, but knows it does share some fundamentals to Sage Mode, like nature energy manipulation. This causes him to refrain from inviting Sasuke, as he doesn't know the full implications of the two abilities. While this concern is valid, no one is aware that Naruto too possesses the curse mark on his hand. The only two people that saw it happen was Kabuto and Kurama, who has refrained from mentioning that important detail to Naruto as he has been curious of what it could bring. So that Sasuke won't be bitter about Naruto getting special training, Jiraiya explains that both Kimimaro and Sasuke could learn from each other to better control their curse mark abilities. Since he has some experience in nature energy manipulation, he will teach them how they could relieve the drain of the mark on their bodies. With that, Naruto is sent off to the Toads. Sasuke is left to train with Kimimaro, and Haku is learning to control his tailed beast's power. With Jiraiya's guidance, everyone now has a goal they need to reach to get stronger. As everyone is training, Jiraiya uses this opportunity to better familiarize himself with the current village and tour the Red Light District. After a week of training, everyone seems to have made some solid progress, except for Naruto for some reason. Sage Mode is known to be a very difficult ability to master, as seen from Jiraiya, who has yet to master it completely. However, something seems different in Naruto's case. It's almost like something is holding him back. In our situation, Naruto is much more experienced with chakra control and has finer techniques due to his time with the Akatsuki as a child. This training should almost come naturally to him. He's learned how to properly clear his mind and infuse himself with nature energy, but right before he begins his transformation, he is disrupted and begins experiencing pain in his arm. Naruto goes to the Great Toad Sage for assistance. He tells Naruto that there's a large negative force within him that is refusing the natural flow of energy, and that he must learn to subdue it. Naruto isn't sure what exactly that means, but thinks it might be Kurama messing with him. Naruto goes within himself to talk to the tailed beast. He asks, why has he been so uncooperative over the past few months? Naruto explains to Kurama that he does appreciate everything he has done for him, but he cannot let himself be fully controlled, at the risk of the few people he loves getting hurt. Naruto says that he had hoped they were getting closer to being friends and cooperating to fight against the Akatsuki and the masked man that Kurama hates so much. Kurama finally responds with a grunt and tells Naruto that he isn't the one causing the issue with the Sage Mode. Naruto looks very confused and asks, if not him, then what? Kurama then tells Naruto that in their fight against Orochimaru, the snake had left his curse seal on his hand. Naruto is shocked to get wind of this and asks why he never told him sooner. Kurama doesn't answer this. Naruto understands that Kurama is probably angry since he too has been ignoring him. Naruto gets closer to Kurama and apologizes. He was the one who originally asked for the power and should have realized the consequences. Naruto then changes his question and instead asks for Kurama's assistance once again. Not hearing an answer, Naruto tells Kurama that they need to work together if they hope to defeat his old family. As Kurama must be aware, they have already captured many of the other tailed beasts. Naruto then pauses and then softly tells Kurama, with a slight tear down his cheek, that he can't risk losing the last family he has left, that being Kurama. This catches Kurama completely off guard, and he looks back. To his surprise, he sees Naruto with tears running down his face, but also with the eyes of a man that is determined to fight. Kurama then begins to chuckle. He thinks to himself that he has never met a human as reckless and determined as Naruto. And on top of that, somehow that charm has rubbed off on him over the years. Kurama tells Naruto he'll be willing to help. Naruto then smiles and thanks his friend. Kurama then begins telling Naruto that the curse mark has a bit of Orochimaru in it, and that he would need to overcome his influence. If he could do that, he could harness the power of the seal and assist him in the sage technique he is attempting to learn. Naruto also asks if he attempts it, could he count on him to aid him? Kurama takes a breath and says yes, but mainly agrees because Orochimaru's creepy presence is messing up the vibe in here. He also tells Naruto that this could be a big risk and he could possibly lose everything if he fails. Naruto, completely determined, realizes the consequences and still wants to push on. With that, the two get ready to unleash the power of the curse mark. Naruto's body begins getting covered with the curse mark, and his body begins to feel as needles are piercing in its entirety. Naruto begins yelling from the pain, but continues pressing on. As the curse has almost covered Naruto's body, Naruto begins screaming immensely and drops to his knees. He not only feels his body ripping, but his psyche is beginning to alter. He feels negative thoughts surging his mind. He sees images of Itachi being tortured, Sasuke being pierced by Obito, Kimimaro enslaved forever by Danzo, and Kin being forcefully held down. Darkness fills Naruto's mind, and he sees nothing. He is being flooded by despair. Kurama senses that he's losing Naruto and quickly releases some of his chakra to aid him in the control. However, something else rushes into Naruto that Kurama hadn't expected. He then smirks and says even after death he can't get rid of her and hopes she will be able to save him. Naruto has lost all sensation in his body. He feels nothing. He sees nothing. All that is surrounding him is a cold, dark void. However, before he's completely consumed, he begins feeling a strong, bright warmth behind him. He then feels a large embrace that destroys the darkness around him. The pain has stopped, and he can finally think clearly again. He then slowly turns around and sees a red-headed woman. He has never met this woman in his life, but for some reason, his chest feels heavy, and he begins crying, embracing the woman in the process. The chakra he was able to sense around them gave him everything he needed to know. The woman tells Naruto that she is Kushina, his mother, but begins laughing as it seems like he already might have known that. Naruto is speechless. Kushina then tells Naruto that she is very proud of her son. Even with all the bad things that have happened in the past, she is happy to see that Naruto was still able to grow up happy and make plenty of friends. She is even surprised he was able to get closer with the Ninetales. She then says that she doesn't have much time. She understands that Orochimaru has invaded his body and he's trying to influence him. She tells Naruto that he can overcome this. He just needs to focus on the people he wants to protect and keep them close to his heart. She tells him that he needs to create his own peace in the world. She knows he has been raised to think of peace that requires innocent sacrifices, but she knows that Naruto knows that isn't right. There's always another way, and knowing her son, he can accomplish it. Naruto smiles and gives his mother one more hug, thanking her for her help and asks her to keep watching over him. Kushina smiles and says she will as she begins disappearing away. Now that Naruto can think clearly again, he sees Orochimaru manifested before him. Orochimaru tells Naruto that if he wishes to gain the power necessary in saving everyone, he will need his curse to take root. Naruto just looks at Orochimaru and agrees. He does need the curse's power, but he'll be the one calling the shots. As he says this, he charges a Rasengan and smashes Orochimaru with it, vaporizing his image. Naruto then finally regains consciousness and looks around, seeing that he is still on Mount Mayaboko and being confronted by the Toad Sages. The Toads look worried, but Naruto tells them that he was able to win, and everything should be okay now. He gets up and is now more determined than ever to get Sage Mode. At this time, we move over to another perspective. We come in contact with Sasori and Deidara. The two are still on their mission to locate the whereabouts of Naruto. The both of them, being capable scavengers, get onto Naruto's trail relatively quickly. However, since Naruto is currently on Mount Mayaboko, he isn't the easiest to track down. Unfortunately for our blonde-head jinchuriki, his friends are an easier target. The two Akatsuki members make their discovery of Naruto's current HQ in the Mist Village 2 weeks into everyone's training. Deidara is pretty disappointed that Naruto isn't there and begins gassing up. Sasori, on the other hand, makes a reasonable conclusion that the jinchuriki is only gone temporarily, as he wouldn't leave behind his friends. While the two Akatsuki have now located their targets, they will not and are not capable of attacking. Even with the two of them, they would not stand a chance against the current Sasuke, Haku, and even Jiraiya, especially since they need most of their targets alive. Fortunately for them, Sasori is quite cunning and develops a plan where they won't need to fight anyone. This plan will be used to lure Sasuke out and force Naruto into their leader Nagato's grasp. In the middle of the night, they send out a message to Sasuke saying that Obito will be going to the Leaf Village to hand over Itachi to Danzo and let him have his way with him. This news infuriates Uchiha. He knows this is exactly what they want him to do, but he can't risk missing the opportunity and getting his brother back, especially before Danzo gets his grasp on him. Sasuke has grown quite strong with his training with Kimimaro, and feels more than capable of giving his brother back now. He leaves quickly towards the Leaf Village in rage. In the last episode, we left off our team of allies preparing for a potential battle with the Akatsuki and Danzo that they could not ignore. They needed to save their mentor figure, Itachi, from the clutches of the enemies. They knew the enemy would attempt to use this as an advantage and lure them into their grasp so that they could capture the Nine Tails and eliminate any potential resistance to their world-conquering plan. Naruto is currently on Mount Mayaboko, learning Sage Mode. It is taking him much longer than it did in canon, but for good reason. He has come to an important revelation. Naruto discovered that he possesses the Curse Mark, and is attempting to turn the hindrance into an advantage by combining it with the Toad Sage Mode, as both jutsu have nature energy at its core. Naruto is on the verge of making a breakthrough on this jutsu when Sasuke, who is in the Mist Village, receives a inconspicuous note revealing that the Akatsuki plan to transfer over Itachi to Danzo. Sasuke can see this as a trap from a mile away, but is reluctant to call the bluff, as if there is any truth to this, Danzo will cause Itachi more pain than just death. It would be the worst fate his brother would have to endure. He is conflicted on what he should do. He knows it would be smart to regroup with Naruto and head there together, but he isn't sure when Naruto will finish his training. On top of that, it looks like the note says that the transfer will occur within 48 hours. If he decided to leave immediately, it would take over a day and a half to get there, just barely making it in time. Sasuke finally decides to just go alone, but before he leaves, he makes sure to relay the note and his plan to Haku so that Naruto will be able to catch up with him. To Sasuke's surprise, Jiraiya, who was also there with Haku, offers to go with Sasuke, as it sounds like he could use the backup, as he might not know what he will be going against. Sasuke is hesitant, but understands he needs any help he can get. Haku is fine with Jiraiya leaving, as he has learned all he can from him. His mastery of his tailed beast has increased exponentially since the beginning of the training, and is confident that he can keep his village safe with his current power until Naruto finishes his end of the deal and teaches him full control over the tailed beast. With that, Sasuke and Jiraiya quickly head towards the direction of the Leaf Village. Sasori and Deidara's plan to lure out Sasuke was partially successful. They didn't calculate for the extra baggage, but they could just dispose of him. With an ambush underway, the two wait for their chance to capture Sasuke. Now, we move over to the Akatsuki's real plan. Nagato has no intention on aiding Danzo by giving him Itachi. Instead, he plans on going back to his original plan of flattening the entire village. The part of the note that was true is that he is planning on moving out in 2 days' time. This is the time he expects Sasori and Deidara will be able to capture Sasuke for extra motivation for Naruto to come to the village so that he can capture and extract the remaining 9 tails. Sasuke and Jiraiya have now covered a day's worth of travel. They are exceedingly close to the village, but need to set up camp as it's getting dark and could be dangerous traveling in the night. On top of that, they need to strategize a plan for once they arrive on the village, since Sasuke will not be welcomed and would need to be disguised. After this discussion, they call it a night. The next day begins with the sun breaking the darkness. Unfortunately for Sasuke and Jiraiya, it seems as they won't be able to attempt the plan as Sasori and Deidara ambush their camp suddenly. Sasori attempts to incapacitate the two with his poison. Jiraiya's quick wit is able to get the two away from the poison. However, as Jiraiya pushes Sasuke out of the way, he is nicked by one of the poison needles. Sasori, frustrated that the fight won't go as easily as he thought, tells Deidara to go with plan B and uses explosives to separate the two. Massive explosions begin forming around Sasuke and Jiraiya, disorienting the two. Jiraiya is left to fend against Sasori, while Sasuke fights Deidara. Deidara initially seems to have the upper hand against Sasuke, as he can fire range attacks consecutively without Sasuke getting a chance to counter. On top of that, Deidara has surrounded Sasuke with explosive mines. Sasuke begins to get very frustrated and sends a flurry of lightning shuriken towards Deidara's floating explosive bird, which surprisingly immobilizes it and causes the enemy to fall to the ground. Sasuke notices this and begins to smirk as he has just found his ace. Deidara thinks Sasuke is going to use this advantage to get close for an attack, but Sasuke just anticlimactically ends the fight with a Chidori stream through the enemy's heart, ending Deidara immediately. Sasuke knew he didn't have time to waste as the time was ticking down for his brother. Sasuke mistakenly ignores checking in on Jiraiya as his carelessness allows Sasori to get a sneak attack from behind him, incapacitating the boy. Jiraiya was unable to hold Sasori off long as the poison was spreading throughout his entire body quickly. Jiraiya witnesses Sasuke being captured and the poison is running the clock and doesn't have much time. He uses what remaining strength he has to summon a toad and reverse summon to the lands of toads where he hopes to find Naruto. Sasori notices that Jiraiya disappeared but isn't worried about him as he was not his main objective. Sasuke was. Plus, the poison should get to him very soon. As Jiraiya poofs into Mount Mayaboko, the two great sage toads are horrified to find their friend Jiraiya boy in such a terrible state. Jiraiya weakly looks to the two and says he needs to relay an important message for Naruto. He mentions Sasuke's name, but is unable to get the rest of the intel out as the poison overtakes his consciousness and he passes out. The two toads quickly turn to get Naruto, but he is already standing before them. He looks very different than he did before. His pupils resemble those of a toad, but the entirety of his body has the hardened texture of a snake. As the two toads begin speaking, Naruto tells them what he has to do. He quickly approaches Jiraiya, touches his wounds, and begins releasing a large amount of nature energy. The toad sages are confused on what Naruto hopes to accomplish. However, before they can question the boy's jutsu for long, they begin to see Jiraiya regain consciousness. The purple surrounding his wounds from the poison begins disappearing. Naruto begins to smile. He has miraculously neutralized the poison. Jiraiya and the Toad Sages are astonished by the power and ask Naruto how he did it. Naruto just chuckles a bit and says he's not honestly too sure how, but it just felt like it was an instinct. It looks like he was finally able to master Sage Mode, and it somehow morphed into his curse mark with no surprising side effects. Jiraiya just sits there in awe as he witnesses his godchild, as he has yet again broken through his limits and reached new power. He is now certain that Naruto is the child of prophecy. However, Jiraiya has no time to stay in amazement, as he has important info to relay. Now that he is well, he tells Naruto that he has to quickly rush over to the Leaf Village. Sasuke was captured by an Akatsuki member on their way over there as they received notice that Itachi would be exchanged to Danzo. Jiraiya also informs Naruto that he is certain that his plan is to ambush and capture Naruto's Nine-Tail. Naruto agrees with Jiraiya, but unfortunately, the Akatsuki, his once and only family, has tied his hands. He is furious that they have gone so low as to use his closest allies against him. Naruto is determined to save them. With his new power, he is faster, stronger, and tougher than normal Sage mode. On top of that, his curse mark helps passively absorb nature energy to increase his time in this mode. Naruto turns to the Toad Sages and asks if they can take him to the Leaf Village quickly. We now turn over to the Leaf Village. Nagato with the Path of Pains have arrived along with Obito, who is hiding in the back with Itachi. The Paths of Pain have begun their siege on the village. Just as in canon, the Pains begin to kill a majority of the villagers and completely flatten the Leaf Village. After Pain wipes the village off the map, he exclaims, "Where is your hero, your leader, to protect you? How rotten the village has gotten." Just as this is occurring, Naruto pops in. He looks around at the horror surrounding him. The villagers he once interacted with when he was a spy were all wiped clean. He yells to Pain for the reason of his actions. Why must the innocent be involved in his world domination plan? Those bystanders had nothing to do with his plan. On contrary, Pain tells Naruto that everyone in this village has been corrupted by Danzo, and to bring equilibrium back to the world, they have to be the first necessary sacrifices. Naruto always had faith in his figurative father Nagato, but seeing his cruel acts in action was too much for him. Naruto was now furious. He himself shared the dream for world peace, but he didn't want to involve the innocent, something his father could not understand. Naruto fuels his rage. Pain laughs as he thinks how cute his treacherous son thinks he can defeat him just because he learned some new transformation. He sends out Asura Path to take down Naruto. However, to his surprise, Naruto sweeps right past him in an instant, annihilating the Asura Path in one shot, and immediately goes to the Naraka Path, taking it out as well. From Naruto's years in the Akatsuki, he was very familiar with how Nagato's pain paths worked. Defeating the Naraka path would guarantee Nagato could not replenish his pains. Nagato couldn't believe it. He definitely underestimated his son's new abilities and now has lost 2 paths instantly. Nagato now gets serious as he has to finish Naruto here and now, something he should have done years ago. Naruto sees Pain has gotten frustrated and uses this to his advantage. Naruto spawns a plethora of shadow clones and begins forming his new signature move he created while he was working on learning Sage mode, the Rasen Shuriken. His horde of clones then run in looking like he's about to attack the Diva Path, but just as Naruto hoped, the Diva Path uses Almighty Push and Naruto flies back. Using the delay time to his advantage, Naruto and his clones throw the barrage of Rasen Shuriken towards the Pains. A complete surprise to Naruto, but he begins laughing. He thinks to himself that he thought he taught Naruto better not to waste chakra. He then moves in his Preta path to absorb the Rasen Shurikens. However, due to Naruto's passive ability to absorb nature energy, he was able to unleash more nature energy than the Preta path could absorb and ends up turning into stone. This completely shocks Nagato and can't believe he lost yet another pain. This stunt, uncalculated by Naruto however, ran out the remaining nature energy he had and he reverts back to normal. Naruto looks worried now. Pain then tells Naruto that he put up a great fight that truly did surprise him, but it was futile against his abilities. It was about time he ended this fight. He uses Almighty Pull to bring in Naruto, and he takes out his black rod to impale him. Just as it looks that Naruto's about to meet his maker, he smirks, and from a distance away, he releases a clone that has been gathering nature energy, and uses that power to quickly create a massive Rasengan and obliterate the Diva Path instantly. Now that Nagato is left with 2 more pains, he is a bit worried. However, as this is going on, he notices something in the distance, and so does Naruto. It's Obito, Itachi, and Sasuke's presence. Sasori had delivered Sasuke to Obito, while Naruto and Nagato have been stalling each other in their fight. Obito has enacted his true plan to get his Mangekyo back. His torturing techniques were unsuccessful on Itachi, but replicating his techniques on Sasuke in front of his brother to watch revealed positive results. Itachi couldn't stand seeing his younger brother Sasuke in such agony and is forced to release his crow that he has been hiding within Sasuke. Obito is excited to finally see his missing eye. He tells Sasuke to carefully hand over the bird and he releases him and his brother. However, before he hands the crow, Itachi musters what little strength he has left to use Tsukuyomi on Sasuke. In this world, he is able to have as much time as he needs with Sasuke. Sasuke questions why he brought him here. Itachi smiles at Sasuke and gives him a 2-finger tap on his forehead. He tells Sasuke that he must use his Chidori spear to kill Obito while he's weak. Sasuke exclaims that if he does, that will also kill him. Itachi understands he's putting Sasuke in a burdenous situation, but tells him that this is the only chance. Plus, his time is coming short as his illness has progressed exponentially with the bad living conditions. Sasuke begins crying from his eyes, but understands what he must do. As he comes to, Sasuke begins handing over the crow, and as Obito's guard is down now, he releases a Chidori spear that goes through his brother and Obito's heart. Sasuke is agonized in pain as he sees his brother's eyes go lifeless, but still leaves off with a smile. Sasuke is crying from the intense emotion, and this trauma unlocks his Mangekyo. As Obito coughs up blood, he exclaims that he isn't done here, and begins using Kamui to teleport Sasuke in the crow. Itachi takes his last breath in shock, as he didn't expect Obito to have Kamui. How could he? Sasuke reaches out for his brother, but is teleported away. Obito and Itachi both fall to the ground, lifeless. However, after a few seconds, Obito returns to life. He used Izanagi and his spare Sharingan to come back. He is angered that he needed to waste a Sharingan, but at the same time can't believe those fools attempted to kill him in that fashion. Such a dirty move. Itachi making his little brother commit. You may be asking where Obito obtained the long-range Kamui. Well, as the Path of Pain were running rampant around the village earlier, the Diva Path had killed Kakashi. Obito used this as a perfect opportunity to take his Sharingan back from his ex-friend. Now that he's in possession of Sasuke, his other Mangekyo, and Sushui's eye, his real plan has been completed. Nagato, seeing this, is beyond angered. He had been completely played right into Obito's hands. Naruto, completely distracted by the capture of Sasuke, is passed by Nagato's remaining pains, who are in hot pursuit to end Obito's life. However, before they can reach him, he begins maniacally laughing, and uses Kamui on himself to teleport to his dimension, leaving Nagato, Naruto, and the demolished village behind. We last left off our journey with some insane Uchiha madness. Sasuke had just been forced to kill his older brother in hopes of finishing off Obito and his tyranny against him and his friends. Unfortunately, Obito was unexpectedly far ahead of their plan. He not only got rid of Itachi, one of his biggest annoyances, but is now in possession of both of his Mangekyo, Sasuke, and Shishui's eye. Nagato, the leader of the Akatsuki, or that's what he thought of at least, saw the betrayal right before him when Obito escaped with his successful plan. The fight between Nagato and Naruto has been pushing on intensely. Nagato has 2 more pains and Naruto is on his limit and holding onto his Sage Mode. After Nagato failed to make it to Obito, he turns to Naruto, which immediately puts Naruto on the defensive, as now he has to locate Sasuke's whereabouts and finish off the remaining pains. As Nagato looks at Naruto, it finally hits him. The passion, drive, and determination seen in Naruto's eyes reach him. This boy is his son, the boy he raised from just a baby. He even thinks to himself, since Obito was the one that brought Naruto to him, what other lies did he come up with for that plan? Regardless, Nagato's mind has been clouded for years, but now in his old age begins to be enlightened. He sees a true shinobi warrior before him, even with Naruto losing his only family, mentor, and now his best friend. His eagerness to fight is strong. With all the clarity rushing to Nagato's mind, he begins chuckling. Naruto, a few meters away, is a bit surprised and worried to see his enemy begin to randomly laugh. Nagato can see Naruto's becoming worried and begins waving and telling him that he succeeded in winning their battle. Naruto explains he will not be falling for any more of his tricks. Nagato repeats himself, telling Naruto that he finally did it. He remembers Naruto wishing to one day beat his dad, and now he has finally done so. Nagato tells Naruto that he wants to see him with his actual eyes one more time. He tells him to concentrate on his chakra since he can probably sense him close by in his Sage mode. Naruto, still very hesitant, concentrates and finds Nagato. He immediately heads over to the location. Naruto hesitantly enters the large tree and sees Nagato sitting in his chair with his mother figure, Konan, next to him. The sight of Naruto before her makes Konan fall into tears. She had seen Naruto as her own, so it warms her heart to see him grow into such a strong young man. Naruto, unable to hold back his true feelings anymore, embraces Nagato and Konan, telling them that he missed them so much. He was so torn over the years to break their ties. Nagato and Konan both understand the torture they put their son in, and both of them apologize to Naruto for their actions. Nagato then looks directly into Naruto's eyes and tells him that he knows he can never truly repent for the sins he has endured to his son and the countless innocent people he has killed over the years. But he can at least try moving forward in the right direction. Nagato tells Naruto that he wants him to inherit his Rinnegan. Naruto is completely shocked by this and questions his father why. Nagato explains that his seemingly endless power has been granted through his visual prowess. Seeing Naruto's pure heart has pushed him to be the proper father he couldn't be and aid his son in his efforts to true world peace. That will be started after he takes down Obito and saves his friend. Naruto's strong, but he will need more power now that Obito has just gained a massive power boost. Naruto is just speechless. He then explains that he won't even know how and where to begin to start controlling the power of the Rinnegan. Nagato chuckles and tells him that Konan will be able to explain all you need to know as she has watched him grow with the power. On top of that, Nagato tells Naruto, even though they aren't real father and son, he has always felt a biological connection, which makes him confident Naruto will be able to master the dojutsu. Naruto then questions why Nagato can't be the one to teach him himself. Nagato takes a sigh, but keeps a smile on his face. He tells Naruto that his plan to do better in the world will start off by reviving all the dead shinobi of the Leaf Village. He says that this jutsu at his current chakra level will kill him. Naruto and Konan both gasp simultaneously. Konan protests, but Nagato has made up his mind. He looks at Konan and tells her that he will live through Naruto through his eyes and that she should take good care of him. He then informs Naruto that since the shinobi of the Leaf Village died and are now being revived, the brainwashing of Danzo should also be reset. Nagato informs Naruto that he will need to make sure he rids Danzo of this world if he wishes to bring the world to a new and free of his tyranny. Naruto asks how Danzo was able to control the leaf so well. Nagato tells Naruto that he possesses Shushui's other eye, enabling him to implant fake memories on anyone he wishes. Naruto gasps as he finally realized what his mentor, Itachi, had meant when Shushui's eyes was so powerful. This explains why Kimimaro couldn't remember his past. Nagato adds that if he's able to retrieve the eye from Danzo, Naruto could revert Kimimaro's memories back and acquire a new ally for his battle against Obito. Naruto, now more motivated than ever, knows what his next move must be. Nagato begins reviving everyone of the leaf and says his goodbyes before his consciousness slowly vanishes. Konan, wiping her tears away, looks at the teary-eyed Naruto in admiration and tells him that they should quickly implant his eyes and begin getting him adjusted. They'll have to make Nagato proud and bring this world to peace. Now, Naruto moves on to his next journey. Konan tells Naruto that they must find a powerful healer that will be able to implant the Rinnegan. She tells Naruto that he is familiar with this shinobi. Naruto ponders who it could be, but right as he figures it out, they arrive at the shinobi's base. They are initially greeted by female shinobi that Naruto hasn't seen in a very long time. It's Kin! Naruto is unable to hold himself back from seeing a familiar face and embraces the girl, which causes her to blush profusely. She playfully pushes him away and asks why they are here, without wording on top of that. Konan tells her that they need to see Kabuto ASAP. She sees this is serious, but before she can get Kabuto, he is already there at the door. He sighs and tells him to come in. Konan updates Kabuto and Kim on what's going on in the shinobi world. He then proceeds with the procedure, and the surgery is a success. On top of that, Kim's new medical ninjutsu is able to aid Naruto in the healing process, and he is ready to begin training in no time. Konan gives Naruto the fundamentals, and somehow in no time, Naruto is a natural at using the Rinnegan. It's almost as if his cells were made for it. He is not ready to fight Obito just yet, but going after Danzo could reveal a great opportunity to get real-life battle experience with his new eyes. With that, we now move over to the villainous Obito. He is in his personal dimension, plotting what to do with his newly acquired trump cards. Now that he has both his Mangekyo, that alone makes him basically untouchable, and even has a full-body Susanoo. Though he thinks to himself, while it would be fun to take the initiative himself, he feels that it would be more exciting if he took a more iconic approach. He begins maniacally laughing as he glances over to the captured Sasuke and Shishui's eye and begins rubbing his hands together. As Obito is scheming away, Naruto, accompanied by Kim, are on the move to a location where Konan told them Danzo was last spotted. That coward had fled the village when Pain arrived, however, was on his way back to reinstate himself as Hokage. With Naruto using Sage Mode to sense Danzo's disgusting chakra, they were able to find him relatively easy, crossing a bridge with two of his root ninja bodyguards. Naruto asks Kim if she prepared the needles with the knockout drugs. He wishes not to drag those ninjas that have been brainwashed by Danzo into their battle. Kim responds, yes. With his enhanced speed of the curse mark Sage Mode and propelling himself forward with Rinnegan, Naruto swiftly knocks out Danzo's bodyguards. This ambush surprises Danzo and he quickly jumps back to get some space. However, Naruto won't let him escape that easily, and attempts to use almighty pull to suck Danzo in. The unexpected Danzo can't comprehend what's happening, but then he sees it. Naruto has acquired the Rinnegan. But by the time he realizes this, Naruto has already stabbed the old man through the heart, ending him quickly. Naruto didn't have much time to waste, as he needed Shishui's eye to get Kimimaro back. As he reaches down to retrieve it from Danzo's eye socket, his body disappears. Naruto's shocked and confused about what just happened. Within seconds, he hears Kim screaming to watch out, and she pushes Naruto out of the way. Danzo was only inches away from slashing Naruto with a wind-natured enhanced kunai. Naruto thought that maybe he went under genjutsu, but seemed almost impossible with his Rinnegan. Kim states that she also witnessed Danzo come back to life, so that would mean that Danzo had some type of secret ability. Danzo was glad to see that Naruto decided to come to him, saving him the trouble of finding him as he hoped to take control over the Nine Tails and use it to protect the remaining Konoha. Danzo, however, is very wary of Naruto's insane power and visual prowess, and if he isn't careful, he'll run through all of his Izanagi. Danzo does notice that Naruto has still not mastered his new visual prowess fully and could use this to his advantage. The battle is fierce and it raves on. The two do seem surprisingly equal, but this is mainly due to Danzo using up most of his Izanagis and Naruto relying mainly on his Rinnegan instead of Sage Mode so that he can practice. Midway, Kim does catch on to Danzo's Izanagi and relays this to Naruto, and the battle begins to lean towards the younger warrior. In the end, Naruto forces Danzo to use all his revive cards. Danzo, being backed into the corner, understands that Naruto's goal is to retrieve Kotoa Mutsukami. As a last-ditch effort, he attempts to destroy the eye so Naruto will not have the satisfaction. Though, Kim, with her quick thinking, throws a kunai towards Danzo and she yells Naruto to use his teleportation to switch spots. Naruto hasn't tried to use this ability yet, but he needed to make this work so that he could save his friend. Fortunately, he's able to switch with the kunai, snatching the eye right out of Danzo's socket just like he did to Shisui many years back, and then kicks him off the bridge. Naruto is relieved the battle is finally over, and he thanks Kim for her splendid support. He wouldn't have been able to win otherwise. Now that he has acquired Shishui's eye, he can recover Kimimara's memories. Naruto is so excited to see his old friend as soon as possible, so the two head over to the Mist Village immediately. However, when they arrive on the scene, they are greeted with unpleasantries. The village is in shambles, and they hear cries and screams from Haku. They rush over to the sounds, and when they arrive, they see Obito and Sasuke working together? Kimimaro is lying unconscious on the floor, and Haku's chakra is being drained by Sasuke. In the last episode, we left Naruto to fight and defeat the tyrant Danzo and retrieve Sushui's other eye. Naruto has now quickly made his way with Kim to the Mist Village to recover their friend's memories. However, the duo is shocked to find that Obito and Sasuke working together and attacking their friends. We were left with Kimimaro unconscious and Haku's tailed beast being extracted. Naruto uses his Rinnegan to pull Haku towards him and away from the enemies just in time to save him. This show of power throws Obito into a frenzy, as now he is aware that Naruto has control over the Rinnegan. He is extremely aggravated and appalled that Nagato would bestow Naruto the dojutsu. With that, Obito has no other choice but to retreat for now. He could most definitely put up a good fight, as he is practically untouchable, but he can't risk Sasuke getting captured or injured before he has fully used up his purpose. Anyways, as far as Obito is concerned, they were able to acquire enough of the Three Tails chakra to continue onto his plan of summoning the Ten Tails. Obito uses Kamui on both of them and the two escape the potential battle. Naruto is still confused about what's going on, but there's no time to worry about the enemies, as his two friends are in critical condition. Fortunately, Kim's extensive medical training comes to use, and she immediately works on stabilizing the two. Once they come to, Naruto asks if either of them knew what was going on with Obito and Sasuke and why they attacked him. The best Haku can remember is that they were training and attempting to hone their skills when Sasuke showed up. They were confused on why he was there alone and thought maybe something bad had happened. In the next few seconds, they were surprise attacked with Kimimaro straight slapped to the floor and Haku pinned down to the floor, having his chakra sucked out of him. Naruto questions why would Sasuke willingly assist Obito, especially after he was forced to kill his brother because of him. What Naruto did know, however, was that it was time to give Kimimaro back his memories and acquire another old ally. Naruto explains that he took care of Danzo and that he will never be causing them a problem again. Also, he was able to acquire Sushui's eyes. Kimimaro's whole face lit up after hearing this. He couldn't believe he would finally get his memories back. Naruto quickly switches out one of his Rinnegan with the eye, activates the jutsu, and now they wait. Kimimaro has his eyes closed, but once he opens them again, he sees Naruto in a new light, the light of an old friend. He smiles and embraces his old friend, now expressing a true reunion. Unfortunately, their time is cut short, with Haku zoning them back into the details at hand. Obito is at large, and apparently with Sasuke under his control. From what we witnessed, they will need to get much stronger than they are now if they hope to stand a chance against the Uchihas, especially if Obito is now plotting something more, since he now knows Naruto possesses the Rinnegan. Naruto understands that the best course of action will be to master their tailed beast power. He tells Kurama that he hopes he is ready, as he will need to be the star of the show very soon. Kurama sighs, as he's been enjoying his peace and quiet. Now, moving over to Obito and Sasuke, Obito is furious at the fact that Naruto has the Rinnegan. And this fact makes this plan almost impossible now, as the dojutsu was the key to his infinite Tsukiyomi plan. He thinks there's a possibility he could steal them back, but with Naruto's arsenal of jutsu, it would prove very difficult. Sasuke is standing there watching Obito pace back and forth. Sasuke, who is under Kotowa Tsukami, sees that his master is frustrated and chimes in by saying that maybe he could get the Rinnegan. He calls Obito, telling him that the story of Madara and how he achieved it by infusing his body with Hashirama's cells. Obito tells him that it couldn't possibly work, since his body already uses Hashirama's cells, but he wasn't able to unlock it. Sasuke then reiterates his hypothesis by saying that he has the eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Obito looks in awe, as that could have been the missing piece. As we know, Sasuke is the reincarnation of Indra, so this plan has a high chance of success. While Obito is experimenting on Sasuke, Naruto is training with Kimimaro, Kid, and Haku to get stronger and save Sasuke so that they can finally put an end to Obito's tyranny. Fortunately, Obito would need some time to work on Sasuke's path to the Rinnegan and get him familiar with it, so our crew has some time to prepare for the upcoming battle. Through weeks of training, Naruto, with the cooperation of Kurama, finally masters Nine-Tails Chakra Mode. In combination with his curse mark Sage Mode, combining all these powers with the Rinnegan pushes Naruto to one of the fastest and strongest shinobi to date. On top of that, Naruto finally teaches Haku to fully control his Tailed Beast power so he can turn into the Tailed Beast form, a great aid to the final battle. On the villain's front, Obito's working tirelessly to get his plan ready. To his surprise, the Hashirama Cell infusion was a success. Sasuke was able to awaken the Rinnegan. Obito lets Sasuke experiment and learn the powers of the new dojutsu as he has bigger fish to fry. Obito actually sends off Sasuke to acquire the remaining piece of the 10 tails by extracting some of the 8 tails. Unlike canon where Sasuke gets bodied by B, he was able to hold on his own and even eventually extract a piece of the 8 tails using the Rinnegan. Fortunately, B was slick enough to escape before Sasuke killed him. With that, Obito now has a piece of every tailed beast, enough to complete the 10 tails ritual. At this point, he's ready to initiate his war on the entire shinobi world. He also has the Zetsu army ready to attack the shinobi fleet. The shinobi nation still forms so that they can hold off the filler army. However, the real fight, and fight that will announce the winner of the battle, will be between Naruto Squad and Obito. Both parties know that the other is standing in the way to victory and will meet each other on the front lines. Before Obito leaves for the battle, he places in his final trump card. He turns Sasuke into the 10 tails jinchuriki. As the yin and yang of this story meet face to face on the battlefield, Naruto and his friends are flabbergasted by the sight they see before them. The friend they once knew and were so familiar with looked completely different. He had dark balls orbiting him, white skin, and horns protruding out of his head. Naruto yells at Obito why he's doing this to Sasuke. Naruto attempts to talk with Sasuke, reminding him about their time together and the many years they spent training as friends. Sasuke just looks at Naruto blankly, with no form of expression. Obito just begins laughing maniacally and tells him that he used Kotoa Mutsukami on Sasuke and that he is completely under his control now. To add some icing on top of the cake, he also says that he has hidden Sushui's eye. Naruto is furious to hear all of this, but he has one hope, as Obito hasn't learned they also have one of Sushui's eyes. Naruto is indeed saddened by the lifeless monster his friend has become, but has hope he will be able to bring him back. He whispers to Haku that he will try to use a pincer attack on Sasuke and wants him to use the eye to bring their friend back. With that, the big fight between Naruto and Sasuke begins. As the fight goes on, Naruto reminisces on the memory that the two always said they would go all out with each other and have a serious battle. However, Naruto never thought it would end like this. Naruto is currently in his activated curse mark Sage Mode and KCM. The two teens seem relatively equal, however the difference is that Naruto's Sage Mode does give him an upper hand, however it's on a short time limit. He has to move quickly with his plan. To distract Sasuke, he sends over a barrage of Rasen Shuriken, all of which Sasuke absorb or deflect. However, when the smoke clears, Sasuke has lost sight of Naruto. In a matter of seconds, Naruto and a horde of clones pop out of the ground, holding Sasuke down. Naruto then yells for Haku to activate Sushui's eye. This is a shock to Obito as he didn't realize he had one in possession. He can't let his trump card get taken and begins rushing over. However, he is just short of late. Haku activates the eye and everyone turns quiet. Our friends wonder if it worked. Naruto begins calling out to Sasuke. Instead of a cheerful response from his friend, Sasuke begins screeching and throwing Naruto off of him. Naruto's confused about why the jutsu didn't work. Obito, now seeing Kimimaro on their side, realizes that those fools must have already used the eye on him. He chuckles and exclaims that the fools have already wasted their one chance on returning Sasuke to them. Since none of them are Uchiha or have Hashirama cells, the cool-off for Kotoa Mutsukami is a decade long. After hearing this, Naruto pounds the ground in anger. How could they be so foolish? They should have known there was a catch. Naruto stands up and begins looking at Sasuke. He sighs and says, "This must have been the sacrifice Nagato was talking about." Naruto has a few tears run down his face, but understands what must be done for the greater of the world. Since Kotoa Mutsukami is irreversible at this point, Naruto is forced to kill Sasuke with the 10 tails to save the world. One of the ultimate sacrifices. As difficult as may be, He plans to get a three-way attack with Kimimaro and Haku. Haku can use Sage Jutsu, so he's left to distract Sasuke. He does this by shooting out a flurry of tailed beast bombs in combination with his crystal ice mirrors. This leaves Sasuke disoriented. Kimimaro then fires a barrage of scorching hot bones from behind. Sasuke, even while being disorientated, deflects some of the bones, but some of them nick his leg. For the final attack, Naruto comes at Sasuke in a frontal assault. He uses Rinnegan in an attempt to crush Sasuke with a bunch of rocks, but Sasuke uses his Rinnegan to push them away. It seems like their Rinnegan jutsus are countering each other. Naruto then throws his infused Sage Jutsu sword at Sasuke, aiming for his heart. However, Sasuke grabs it before it reaches him. As the plan looks to have failed, Naruto surprises everyone by transferring spots with the sword and smashes a massive tailed beast bomber Sengon in Sasuke's abdomen. Naruto, crying, tells his old comrade that it's been a fun ride as Sasuke disintegrates away. Now that Sasuke has been defeated, the only person left to take care of is Obito. Unfortunately, he is practically invincible because no one can touch him. All hope looks to be lost, but Naruto has been practicing a very difficult technique that could work. He will attempt to use his Rinnegan to jump to Obito's dimension. He can only travel to places he has physically been before, and fortunately, he has been to this dimension many times before when he was a child in the Akatsuki. Obito doesn't readily make this connection. Naruto's team begins to put his plan into action quickly. Haku shoots out a tailed beast bomb, Obito unfazed as he knows their efforts are useless. However, when he teleports to his dimension, he is greeted by a furious Naruto holding a tailed beast resin shuriken bomb. Naruto unleashes the attack immediately as his jutsu shreds through Obito. He yells that this is for Sasuke and Nagato. As things quiet down, Naruto uses dimensional travel to get back to the real world. He feels internally defeated. He's lost so many people. Nagato was right all along. Many sacrifices have to be made to achieve peace. Even with that, Naruto vowed to use his power to make the world a place where future children could live without the corruption of malice. He would take all the evil into him. And that's where we're ending the final episode. Now guys, I hope you enjoyed this journey, as it's definitely been a long time to finish this series, but it was all worth it. So please make sure to show that support by liking this video, sharing it with anyone you know, and leaving comments down below, as I love interacting with all of you. But until the next video, my peeps, much love, Neon out.